What's up, guys? Welcome to Box to Box Football, and I'm here for one of the most depressing videos that we're ever gonna do, analyzing England versus Italy. And I'm good. I'm happy that I took a few days, and these guys took a few days to kind of look back at everything and now come to a conclusion. And now we're gonna see how we feel and see what happened during during that game, not just on the penalties, but even especially in normal time. But man, how do you guys feel about like the whole thing, the whole tournament, and getting to this point? How did you guys feel, Jack?
I mean, uh, it's it's actually difficult to put into words because I think people will jump on the first sentence you say and think that's your opinion of the whole thing, and like jump down your throats. I've seen a lot of philosophical, introspective stuff coming from the official English page, coming from interviews and post match comments and stuff. And look, that's fine, and I get it, right? We want to be bigger than sport, and we want to try and build up communities and give a nation hope and all this stuff. But guys, at the end of the day, this is sport, and you need to. The moment you step in those white lines, you should win. At Wembley Stadium, with the players and the squad that you have available, it's a huge disappointment not to win. Italy are a very good team and were the best team in the whole tournament. But as much as we can look at all the positives to take away, the overriding opinion for me has to be disappointment and, to a certain extent, back to the drawing board. And my biggest thing is, nobody is exempt from criticism at any point, at any point. So, yeah, James, you probably know where I'm going to go with this, and we'll get into it in the video. I'd have liked to have seen some of our bench players play throughout the whole tournament. I'm just putting it out there. I know you don't like it because it's what ifs, and I understand that reasoning. But as projections go, if you see the state of our bench and you see the fact we had one shot on target in 2 minutes, it's disappointing. It's very disappointing. And for Southgate to bring on these guys at the end to take penalties who probably should have had more minutes during the tournament anyway, and for them to miss, yeah, I'm a little cheesed off with that. I'm not saying I'm going to do a better job than Gareth Southgate, but the criticism is going to come like it or lump it. But cooler heads prevail, right? Great tournament. Best team won the whole tournament. I'm okay with that. Seriously, we beat the team that knocked us out in the World Cup. We beat Germany. We beat the tournament darlings in Denmark, and we lost to the best team in the tournament. Just because all the games but one were at home, that's disappointing. But, on to the next one. Let's get better. Perfection doesn't exist, but we got to try and get there somehow. It's Pep Guardiola.
Lovely take from Jack. Mikey, do you have
There you
anything
go.
to add?
I think like I said before we started the episode, I think my opinion, Jack's opinion, Lorcan's opinion might be angled all in the same direction, because even though we got to the final and we had the great opportunities to win, there was still a lot of moments in the tournament that deep down I wasn't happy with. Like, you've got players on the bench, like Jack said, like your Jadon Sanchos that are moving to Man United for £73 million that could only get one game throughout the whole tournament. And I'm not saying that the players on the pitch that played up throughout the tournament weren't good enough. I'm just saying you could have maybe tried something different. You've not. Some games we're getting two shots the whole game. We're not doing anything in the attack. And I understand he's had a very pragmatic approach, and he wanted to make sure that we didn't concede too many goals. Which, if you look at that as a key performance indicator, he got it right. Like, I mean,
Right.
we didn't concede many goals, two to be exact, I think. Excluding the penalties, obviously. But
And also, to be like, one is a free kick, or bit of a worldie, if we're being honest, and one is a scrappy tap in from a centre back. We didn't get
So
outplayed
yeah,
at any point.
technically, England did not concede a goal from open play the whole tournament. No,
Yeah,
they
there you
didn't.
go. Ah,
Yeah,
which to be fair is a very, very good like statistic, and it's very good in terms of our defensive capabilities, which was a major problem before the tournament. Everyone was highlighting it, but because he was so pragmatic and he was so worried about not conceding, it took away from what we could have had going forward. Now, I'm not saying if we focused on our attack, we would have won the whole tournament. No, far from that. We could have lost maybe in the quarterfinals and the round of 16. But if we're trying to build towards a World Cup or the next Euros, you can't tell me we've progressed in this tournament in
no,
terms of our build-up play, our performances, and the way we want to approach the World Cup. Because if we're going to just be pragmatic, then that's fair enough. We might get the results, but We've not experimented. We've not given the likes of your future talents like Bellingham a run out. Maybe there's one game he could have started next to one of the holding midfielders, spice it up a bit, confuse the opposition. But for me, I just feel like if what the official England Twitter have come out saying, United Nation, we're building as a group, blah, 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 and the FA pathways and all that stuff that talk about progressing and building towards 2022, the World Cup, because they said aim is to reach the final for Euros and then win the tournament at the World Cup. For me, there's not been that much progression from what I've seen on the pitch. Maybe from the attitudes of the players, but on the pitch, not much of a progression, because I honestly don't think our attack has got any better from when we played in the World Cup in 2018. There was nothing that I went, oh my God, he's actually made us better attacking-wise. We were much better defensive-wise, and maybe that's a starting block, but attacking-wise, there was no improvement. And that's because we were too pragmatic and too focused on the other side of the pitch, which was our downfall, in my opinion, in the final, because we had the chance to take it away from them, but we didn't.
Lorcan?
Yeah, I'm very gutted. Considering I got back at 4:30 on a Monday, and I was bad. It was depressing. And the thing is, like everyone says about the penalties and stuff. Listen, penalties were a disaster because, like Mikey said and Jack said, you give them penalties to players who've had barely any minutes in the most prestigious moment of their footballing career. It's just non-existent. And I watched the video of Southgate in there picking the penalty, and he looked panicky. He was so nervous. He was walking around. He didn't know who he was going to choose. And I was looking at Mancini, and he was done. His hands. He's like, I know who's taking the penalties. And we could have practiced penalties all week, but Southgate didn't know who were going to be his penalty takers. And that, for me, shows that although Southgate's a great manager, he's a great leader, he does not know how to get the best of that squad. And for me, it showed during the game as well. We started so well, the 3-4-3. What Mancini did at half-time, he just said to his middle three, rotation is key here. If you can keep rotating, draw out their midfield, play the central passes, Chiesa diagonal runs between your centre-back and right-back, Insigne drop into the midfield, let Emerson go wide. England didn't have an idea how to deal with that. And that's why Italy got into the game. They got into more, progressed up the pitch quicker, faster, had more. I think Italy had 24 chances on goal. We had 6.
Ugh.
And it shows to me, right, that when a team such as how we play and they change a few little strategies or technique or tactics, as a manager, Southgate doesn't know how to get the best out of the play. He doesn't know who to bring on to try and nullify that attack. We went to a 4-3-3 to try and match him. You ain't going to beat Italy in a 4-3-3. Let me tell you that. They're the best at that. We don't have the capability to beat them at 4-3. And it just shows me he panicked. And the penalties just really annoy me because we had so many good penalty kick takers. I'm not saying Saka, Rashford, or Sancho are not bad penalty kick takers, but they should have been further up the line based on the minutes they had. And science and statistics tell you that if players who don't have minutes come on and take a penalty, third touch of the game, I think it's like 75% chances they're going to miss.
Right.
And to be fair, Rashford
is actually true.
It's around that benchmark statistically. Players who have limited minutes in a game who come on barely miss because you put them in an environment that's so pressurised. They haven't played much of the game, and you expect them to score. And I said to James for this episode, that's a big goalkeeper. And when you're stepping up and you haven't played any minutes on that pitch, I know they play at Wembley 6 out of 7 games of the tournament. That's a big, big moment. I feel for Saka in that because he's 19. That's a big moment in his career.
Highlighting that goalkeeper again, before the penalty shootout, he has a 68% save ratio on penalties. That was before the shootout. 68%? 68% save ratio on penalties. That was before the
James. This is
serious.
Like, I've been talking about James. I've been trying to sell you on Donnarumma for years.
No. First of all, I don't think I feel like he's a good goalkeeper, but he also has a lot to improve. Sometimes I'm seeing him snapping out the ball. Yeah, he has a lot to improve, but he's nowhere near the finished article yet. He's a top goalkeeper, but he's not the finished article.
So coming back to that goalkeeper stat, you think 68% save ratio, and you've got 3 of your penalty takers are trying to place the ball off a penalty, like running up to it and side footing it. You know what I mean? And for me, if you side foot the ball, that's a chance to the keeper. You're giving him a chance to make a save. That's how I see a penalty. Harry Kane, Harry Maguire, there's no side foot in here. We're smashing it. And it's going into the corner. And if it doesn't go in the corner, the keeper ain't seeing it anyway. That's how you've got to take a penalty. That's my opinion. Obviously, you're gonna have your technicians they're gonna bend it into the top corner and they're gonna have that stutter run up. I mean, Jorginho missed his penalty, but he's probably one of the better ones at doing the different technique rather than just smashing it. But for me, if you've got a keeper that can make saves like that in a penalty shootout, that's high in confidence as well, because he's probably one of the best in the tournament. You can't be trying to play games with the keeper. You can't be trying to go, I'm going to take my time and make him move. Sometimes you just got to put it in the back of the net any means possible, and that means running up to it and twatting it. Then that's so be it.
Let's get into the game. So Jack calls me and says England are playing three at the back, and I was like, oh, I'm not really sure about that. I couldn't get my head wrapped around it because I was on the move, like trying to make the game, but sat down, and then before I even actually got to order my food, I just hear boom, 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 England score after 2 minutes, the perfect start, and I'm thinking like, wow, England are really, really, really going to go on.
Wing back to wing back,
like wing back to wing back.
Perfect.
England are really going to go on to win this tournament. After that, it just kind of goes tails up a little bit, because when you get an early goal like that, I expect you to kick on and then show that team, because right there you have them on the ropes.
At Wembley,
like at Wembley, but especially Italy, you have them on the ropes. The crowd is on your side. Italy weren't really sure what to go on. I don't know why England didn't go for the kill at that point, because Italy were rattled, because they didn't settle, in my opinion, until about the 30th minute. You had a good 28 minutes where you could have actually finished this game off. You failed to do that in Croatia, and you failed to do it in that game.
That was the first error of many errors from Southgate that evening, in my opinion, because you could tell after that goal went in, the approach changed. They went, we're going to hold this. We haven't conceded too many goals. We've conceded one goal before this tournament. We can win this 1-0. That's their mindset.
Imagine.
And for me, no chance against Italy. Italy, the one team in that tournament that you're not sitting on a 1-0. Because
for like 88 plus minutes too. Like that's what kind of winds me up. If we score at 60, if it's 0-0 till 60 or 70 and we score and we think, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, sure, we can hold this, fine. But after 2 minutes, include extra time, that's over 90 minutes of football. You have to stop the best team in the tournament in the final with a bunch of clutch players who've won big, big trophies. It's not going to happen. It was never going to happen.
Jack, you bring up that point. That to me is the biggest part about it. They scored in the first 2 minutes. It's not like they scored midway in the first half, or even like just coming to halftime. You scored 2 minutes in. There's a lot of football to be played at that time. And if you're in Italy, in like your head, it just goes back to 0-0. It erases straight away compared to you getting a goal at a later stage. Your mindset kind of goes. But just to see England not capitalize on the opportunity, I feel like it's really, really poor. But where do you feel like Italy kind of won the game, and where did you feel England lost the game, Lorcan?
Yeah, so obviously we started 3-4-3, and I said before the previous episode, I said Kane's going to drop deep because that's where Spain got a lot of success. The centre forward dropping deep and linking wide play, and that's what we started with 3-4-3. We had Shaw and Mount going down. Mount going down the left side, Shaw down the right side. What was doing was just shifting the players going left to right, and that's where the goal come from 2 minutes in. Mount into Kane out wide. Tripper had held the cross the back four. Shaw tapped it in, and then from then on. By the way, although we seemed on top for that game for the first 30 minutes or so, I think Italy had like 74 possessions still. They still had the ball. Like they just weren't creating chances. But I'll get into that why they didn't have the chances. So we had a 3-4-3. We were stretching their midfield. And the thing as well is Immobile, because he's not willing to come back into midfield, he's more of that type of striker to get in behind. They were struggling to get sort of sequences of passes in the midfield to play forward. So this is where Mancini at half-time, as a reactive manager, as a serial winner, he goes, right, in about 60th minute, we're going to bring Immobile off. Insigne's going to come into the middle. We're going to bring Cristante and Berardi on. Insigne's going to come. He's going to come into the central areas. Emerson's going to stay wide because he's a whip. He's got the pace. He's got the energy. We're going to leave Chiesa right side. Every time the ball goes left, Chiesa, you stay right side. and your opportunity is your trigger is every time the ball goes into midfield and Insigne passes it back to either Verratti or Jorginho, you make that diagonal run in between centre back and full back. And they had so much success. And it wasn't just Chiesa, it was Emerson as well. I don't know how many times England tried to press the back two. Benitez would just get the ball out his feet and go, right there's Emerson, play a diagonal ball every time, so much success. And that, for me, I was sitting there going, surely Southgate and the analysis side of things, you've got to be seeing that going, they're just playing around us here. We need to change the system and actually nullify what they're doing. But I think second half, they had like 18 chances just through diagonal balls.
Or one of the assistant coaches, like somebody just raise your hand up, go, hey, I've noticed something. What do you think?
Yeah. And just bugged me all game. I was thinking, Chiesa, like, he got injured and I was like, get in there, like, good job he's not playing extra time. But he was so dominant, like, because Shaw and I think Trippier were getting so high until he took Saka on and stuff. Because they went so high and it was pressing up high, that's where they were getting the success. That's the difference between us and Italy. They knew how to hurt us. And because we changed our formation throughout the tournament, this game, we had played 4-2-3-1, I think the players just got a bit confused what to do. And that's what upset me most. It's not the fact penalties were bad enough, but just our set up play and stuff. Why did he change it? I thought, just stick with a 4-2-3-1. The players know how to do it. Players have to get the best out of it. And if they do change the way they play, Italy, they do look to go diagonal balls, we can just change a few players around, bring some more energy on, bring Sancho on, bring Saka on for a bit more energy. Then they're a bit wary to go forward. But don't change a whole system, because then you can't nullify. You can't change it too much. A 3-4-3 is a very hard formation to change. It's very difficult to bring the personnel on as well.
Do you know the one thing?
Personnel on the pitch already, which they
Exactly.
The one thing I really noticed from especially Mancini is his ability to make tough decisions. In like when I mean tough decisions, I understand Gareth Southgate took off a player, took off a substitute, but I'm talking about taking off your best players. So he realized Verratti was getting a bit tired. Instead of him like keeping on the pitch, he might take penalties, I need him on the pitch, he took him off. Immobile, who was their top goal scorer, he takes him off. He isn't scared to make these decisions. As the game is running, and I'm seeing players like Kane get a little bit nullified, players like Sterling get nullified. I don't know, why don't you not take them off in these situations? You can see the game is clearly getting away from them. Bring on fresher legs who actually could do something, you know?
But James, and I think what's I hope, and I'm sure they do, the boys kind of share my sentiments here. I don't have a problem with Bukayo Saka or Raheem Sterling or any of England's attacking players or the way they set up. I don't. I just think that at times, whether that's starting or whether that's coming on as subs, there are better options there and available. So to persistently cram these players down, I know that it's not a personal attack on Jack Farr, but the idea that they're kind of cramming these players down our throats when you have the talent like you do on the bench. I can't remember what game it is, but I remember Rashford, Sancho, and Grealish were all sat next to each other on the bench. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, the boys who are on are not doing a bad job. I'm not going to overly criticize what they've done, but I'm telling you that of those three guys, 2 of 3, maybe 3 of 3, if they were on the pitch, would probably be outperforming what we have on right now. And that's just, it's frustrating to watch at the end. I don't, conceding 2 goals, right, not from open play, that's fine. That's great, whatever. But to get you over the line, like, when are we next going to have a final of any description at Wembley with the whole, nation behind us and everything? It's just, it's such a missed opportunity. I'm going to be 81 if we have another 55 years till our next final. I'm going to be 81 years old.
Jack, do you know what? The fact of for me, one of the bigger things that I didn't like especially was Mason Mount. Like, he's a fantastic football player. No one no one can say otherwise. But he was non-existent in this game. He was non-existent in this game completely. And for him to last 105 minutes, it was just absurd. I didn't get it. And this was where Gareth Southgate, I understand you do what you do, you pick your favorites, but there's an opportunity here. There's an opportunity for, listen, you guys clamor on about Jack Grealish. I think he's a fantastic player, but you guys go on a bit too much about him. But it was an opportunity to bring him on. It was an opportunity to bring Jadon Sancho on. And even the fact that, that got me was the fact that, okay, England are going to sit back. That's fine. teams can sit back, but you need to have an out ball, right? You need to have a trigger of where to play when you win that ball back. And I felt England didn't have that. You know, you bring on Bukayo Saka with all that pace. You have Raheem Sterling with all that pace there. And I didn't feel like Gareth Southgate gave them the license to really go when England had the ball. And that's what let them down. Because once, okay, let's say Kane dropped so deep that once the ball turned over to England, Italy just literally crammed them in, had them had them compact, the ball turn over again, and it's the same cycle every single time. And that's where, to me, Gareth Southgate should have looked at it. Maybe a Marcus Rashford to kind of stretch this team, because Italy, they didn't want to run in behind.
But my issue though, James, with even that kind of a comment is what you're doing is, say like me, maybe Micky, maybe Lorcan, all think like, oh yeah, we think Rashford or Sancho or Grealish would be able to do better. If you're just bringing them in cold off the bench and they've not started a game all tournament and they've not built up the chemistry with the players they're playing with, they're not in the mindset of starting certain games, they're not going to perform to the capabilities that they would be able to. So what happens is they come on either as subs or they start games kind of cold. They don't perform as well. And then before you know it, they're out of the team and they're sat back on the bench. To me, it's that kind of stuff that doesn't make sense to me. We got to a final. I get it, all this stuff. But to me, there's still room for criticism of the team selection of Southgate and how we ended up losing the thing on penalties. I don't know.
The thing that James touched on about Mount was in the game and Mikey says he's out of position. He was out of position. All Mount was there for was, if you get the ball, if you're not got the ball, just you run inside, keep Lorenzo occupied, and that'll give Shaw a bit of space to either cross a ball in or like the goal. Because Mount come inside, Lorenzo was a bit occupied with Mount and Shaw scored the goal. But once they knew about what was going on, there's no point Mount playing, because Mount's the type of player who he can go past one person, but Mount's very good at linking play and running through the back four and stuff. He didn't do that. There's no point him being on the pitch.
And his off the ball work.
Whereas Grealish would have been better because, yeah, he can come inside and keep the player occupied while Shaw does the overlap, but Grealish can also come inside, beat one player and have a shot. So then Lorenzo's got two options to think about. He's thinking, do I go with Grealish here or go with Shaw? Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I mean.
You're talking about that Lorenzo guy, yeah? And obviously when they clocked what was happening, he wasn't going to follow Mount no more, which is fine. Because one of the midfielders would pick him up. I guarantee you, if that was Grealish, he's following him everywhere. Because if you give Grealish a chance to get the ball, turn, and start running with it, that's a problem there. Because he's getting a head of steam, and you know, with any little bit of contact, if it's not on the ball, it's a foul. I personally would have taken Mount off very early on in terms of second half and brought Rashford on, because of the simple fact that Kane was dropping deep, turning with the ball, but had no one to pass to.
Yeah.
Because Mount was always coming, trying to be his buddy next to him. Because Mount doesn't go in behind. Sterling was on the far end of the pitch trying to make those runs, but when you've only got when their back four has only got to mark one runner, it becomes pretty easy. No one
it's the same. It's the same with Sterling though. Sterling's like had a great tournament where he's gone at people and stuff. His job again on Sunday was, you come inside, let Trippier get the ball wide, and it worked for the goal, and that's about it. Whereas, Sterling shouldn't be given the license. If you get the ball, have a look over your shoulder. If Trippier's there and he's in a bit of space, give the ball. He's in a better position than you to give a good ball in. But if not, run at him, drive at the back four, take person on, because then Chiellini and Bonucci have got to defend. They've got to come out and defend. And then second half, if Sterling's a bit tired, right, Sancho, this is a perfect game for you because you love driving inside, you love beating people. Because then Bonucci and Chiellini are thinking, we've got this second half again. Sterling's been out all first half. We've got Sancho now. One of the best, like in terms of assists for Bundesliga.
Why did Sterling go to the right? I wondered when I saw them start, and I saw, I was like, why is he out on the? I couldn't even think of the reason why that would happen. It didn't make any sense to me.
But it's the clear. Southgate, I think, said it before the Ukraine game, right? He's like, I've picked Sancho and those type of players because they're prolific in 1v1s. This was the game you needed prolific 1v1 players, not Ukraine.
Against Ukraine Emerson and Di Lorenzo.
You had Emerson, who's not fresh into the tournament. The guy hardly gets a game for Chelsea, and he looked like a world-class right back against us.
Yeah. And Di Lorenzo just kicks people. I
couldn't believe it. And you know what? Saka came on and he tried to take people on and beat them, which is fair enough. But for me, that game was calling out for 1v1 specialists, which would have taken the attention away from your best player. which was Harry Kane. Harry Kane was getting marked by anyone and everyone whenever he got the ball because he was dropping deep, like Lorcan said, which actually worked for the first half. Second half, Mancini changed everything, and they had a double pivot most of the time in defense with one player in front. And they were just mopping Kane up every single time he got the ball. And that's because Mount was coming short, trying to receive it off him, and Sterling was trying to make runs in behind. If you've not got a collective movement in behind when the player that drops deep wants to play you the ball, you're not going to cause any problems. Because, for instance, when you watch Tottenham, right, Kane drops deep, you've got Son running in behind, but Son's not the only one running in behind.
Yeah,
Bergwijn's running in behind, Lucas is running in behind. Those are the types of players that are joining the attack. If you've only got one player joining the attack when Kane's dropping deep, it's not going to be effective. No. He's not. And this is the thing. He's not De Bruyne. De Bruyne might be able to find that pass to Sterling. Kane is not De Bruyne. And I'm tired of hearing the comparisons of like, oh, he's a playmaker like De Bruyne. No, he's not. He's got an exceptional passing range, but he doesn't have the vision that De Bruyne has.
Yeah.
De Bruyne might be able to cut out the whole midfield. Kane just plays lovely passing balls through and in and behind.
Do you know what? I feel a little bit sorry for Gareth Southgate in how football is just based on margins. A missed penalty here or there, a decision here or there, a tackle or a goal here or there changes everything. Because to be truthfully honest, in these past 7 weeks, I felt like he's been brilliant. I felt like he's been his own man. He's made decisions, and we can't argue around it because it worked. But at James, the final hurdle,
just quick. Can I just say, right? I do not think me, Micky, or Lorcan at any point will ever tell you he's done a bad job, he should be sacked, none of that stuff. What we're trying to do is get that 99% to the 100. Our criticisms, for me, are that 1% because he's been borderline stainless, right? He's been brilliant. He's been so good in so many ways. I mean, I don't want to speak for the boys, but I don't think he's been bad at all. For me, it's getting to that next bit so that we can have a video here where we're all smiling because we've got a trophy, right? I say royal we, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
I mean,
now you know what a Tottenham fan feels like, you know. So,
yeah, right.
I mean, I think the one thing that I get and like the big concessions I get with Gareth Southgate is that I think everyone says he's a great manager, but the one thing that they always seem to question about him is his tactics. And it showed against Croatia when England needed to change it in the middle, it didn't work. And like he wasn't able to adapt. And again, being shown at a big stage, it is a dent on him. And it is something that I feel people are going to question about him, but it shouldn't because of what he's been able to do for England. But it's just unfortunate to me how everything plays out, you know.
I think for me, it's that game was won on fine margins, and you know we can all sit here and blame Southgate, but he's on the touchline. Maybe the analysts didn't see what Italy were doing, and that's where I think a little bit experience. I look at Mancini's backroom team. They got Adamo Graducci, Alberico Varni. These are great tactical coaches. These guys are. I can't remember which game it was, but. It was Spain and Italy was struggling. And the first thing I saw was 3 coaches. I don't know if they were analysts as well. Mancini, come here. This is happening. And that's the difference. That's the fine margin you need. They Italy's back with the team. You look at England's backroom team, right? And they're very good halfway coaches. They're all academy coaches. We're gonna coach the boys to be the best players that they can be. You know, James, how Charlie used to encourage us at Titans. But we need to develop the player. They're development coaches. They're not tacticians. Because Southgate's come through as a development coach. He's going to bring his assistant managers that are development coaches with him. For me, he's much better off bringing maybe 1 or 2 people that excel in that tactical side of the game with him to maybe give him that knowledge. That's my criticism. I think which he will be the manager for England for the next World Cup. There's no shadow of a doubt here. He has to change.
Just quickly, in the post-match interview, the woman was I can't remember the name of the journalist who was speaking with him, but she said like, "Oh, and obviously this will be good for the World Cup." And Gareth was kind of like, "Look, I'm not gonna speak about the future right now, the World Cup. Like, I need to reflect on this and see where I'm at." So, like, I think he will too. I agree with you. And I think that, he should be the guy going forward, but I don't think he knows yet. I think that he's probably going to take a minute here and just sit down, decompress and see where he's at. Because maybe he's going to put his hands up and go, I can't do that again. You know what I mean? I don't know.
But if he does move forward, I think he needs to make decisions in that way. Bringing in because he brought that guy, he brought Chris Powell from Tottenham, and he brought that guy from Newcastle. Both academy
Jones,
coaches. Yeah, both academy coaches or assistant coach. Well, one's I think assistant coach for Newcastle, and Chris Powell only was an assistant to Ryan Mason when Ryan Mason took over, but he was an academy coach prior to that.
No. Also, Chris Powell's been a coach in like.
Yeah, he's been a coach, James. But you know what? When I talk about a coach, he's been through the English pathway of coaching, right? He's not got that tactical background where we don't talk Chris Powell and you go, Jesus, this guy's got some knowledge behind him in terms of formations and tactics and styles of play and shit like that. That's my point. I feel like you have to have a guy in the backroom staff that you turn around to and go, this guy's got the knowledge. Because you look at Lampard at Chelsea, I think his assistant, I can't remember his name, but apparently
Moss, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I can't remember his name.
Apparently, he was the guy that had all the tactics. Lampard was the man manager. That was the tactics guy. For me, I look at Southgate and I'm going like, you're the man manager. That's clear to see. But who's the tactics guy? I don't see one. I don't see anyone going up to him and really presenting a plan of action on how we're going to approach things on the pitch. And the biggest thing is identity. Do England have an identity? I don't think we do.
I feel like England have an identity, but the one criticism I have of that identity is that I see it coming out in certain positions. Like the amount of great wide and attacking midfielders you guys have is great. You got your Phil Fodens, Jack Grealish, whoever. Like they manipulate the ball well. The one criticism I've always had of England is the fact of you've never had a great midfielder who retains the ball well enough to a level of a Frankie de Jong, to a level of a Marco Verratti. England don't do that. And like the fact you look at the midfield, Declan Rice, I like him. I like what he brings. Calvin Phillips has just been sensational this whole tournament and has really, really put his name in for a lot of teams to take a look at him. But they don't retain the ball that well.
But do you think then, James, like Lorcan said about England changing to match Italy, because Italy were retaining the ball. We tried to retain the ball with our style of play when we changed formation. But we don't have the players to do that in the midfield, like you've just said. So that, for me, shows a clear lack of identity in terms of playing style. England don't have an identity in the way that they play the game. They've got an identity in the way that they develop the player, but there's no identity in the way that they play the game. And now this is something that I saw when one of the England under 23 coaches came into university to do a speaker with us this year at our masters. Like Micky Harris or something is his name. He's coached at Brighton and he was coaching at the FA and stuff like that. And he showed us a presentation on how England play in the build-up, like their playing styles and stuff. And when I tell you, it was very broad and it wasn't very concise in terms of this is what we do, but it was just a lot of if we have it, can we do this? There was a lot of can we's instead of this is what we do. So it's a lot of player dictated stuff. So the players have to decide in the moment. It wasn't very tactically driven from the manager going, I want you to do this. It was very, can we do this? That's the presentation he gave. And for me, that was so evident in this tournament because the managers obviously put out the players and the players have played to their ability and to their qualities. And we've seen that. But if you put out two midfielders that are very good defensively and nullifying attacks and doing all those good things that defensive midfielders should do, but you've got no midfielder that retains the ball, we're not going to see any ball retention from him. Do
you feel like Gareth Southgate kind of went away from what the FA like supposedly shows us, how to play, because England don't progress the ball that well in like the way, let's say,
agreed. I agree.
The FA would want them to. They don't keep the ball. They don't manipulate the ball.
For me, that's the problem because you've spoken about player identity, and we're so built on developing these unbelievable ball players, but our style of play doesn't reflect the unbelievable ball player. It reflects the courageous defender. That's
Right.
the two. That's the two identities. And there's a big because if you look at it, our defenders in this country are taught to be ball players, right? We need to be able to carry the ball, bring it into midfield, retain possession, and then be good at defending. Whereas for England, it was let's be good at defending, and then we'll worry about going forward. That's the difference. And I feel like that, and I don't know if that was the FA going, here's the pressure, you need to win, and Southgate going, okay, I'm going to do whatever means necessary to win, and go away from what I was maybe trying to do. And that's the problem, because if you've got the identity of the players, like you've spoken about, you don't, and the identity of the players do not match the style of play. That's why Foden. This is my opinion. That's why Foden didn't start the rest of the tournament. He wanted Foden to start because he's a great player for England in terms of the identity that we want, but he just didn't fit the style of play that Southgate had to go for to win the tournament.
Let's talk about the last part and the dreaded part, and that's penalties and how it's shaped up, how the penalties were taken, how the penalties were organized. We spoke about it briefly, but before we get into penalties, we need to address the elephant in the room. Now, unfortunately, Bukayo Saka, Marcus Rashford, and Jadon Sancho all missed penalties. And when they did miss, I remember I was with my friend, and as soon as I heard that they missed, because I couldn't even watch, I sunk into his arms like, I know what's coming next. I know what's coming next. And
you know what's the saddest thing, James?
Sorry, Mikey. The fact that Twitter is trending the word nigger. The fact of you see these people who claim to be England fans, as soon as something goes wrong, they already point the finger. My mum used to always tell me this thing is that being black, you have to work a bit harder and you'll never be accepted. It makes me feel like that because here are guys who are playing for England and got England to heights that they have only dream of, and they're still getting criticized for it.
Never gotten to, James, in a Euros. Never gotten to.
It's never happened. And for them to put you in this position in the first place, and you're criticizing them for missing a penalty that, let's be honest, the greatest have missed before. I watched a penalty shootout for Real Madrid where Kaká, Sergio Ramos, and Cristiano Ronaldo all missed. In 2006, Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard, the two most reliable penalty takers for England, both missed in a penalty shootout. It happens. And for you to criticize them for it, to label them as this and it's, to me, it's disgusting. And deep down in my heart, I didn't want England to win, and that was the reason why. They showed me the reason why I didn't want England to win, and the fact that England didn't win, you guys deserve it. For the actions I've seen, you guys deserve it.
This sums up racism, right? You know, when it happened, I knew the backlash that was coming. I didn't even have to think twice about it. I didn't have to have a deep dive and reflection about it. I knew it was coming. My girlfriend never watched football before. She watched the Euros because it's such a big event in England. Everyone's going out watching the game. She's messaging me like the next day going, have you seen all this racism that's going on? Have you seen how these players are getting abused? And she's retweeting Harry Kane's messages that he's supporting the players and stuff. And she's like, why are you showing no sympathy? And I'm like, because I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
That's the difference. We're not surprised, but people that have never watched football and have never been in this environment to experience that level of racism to a player on social media are all surprised. But it's not a surprise because, like you said, you knew what was coming. I knew what was coming. I'm pretty sure Lorcan and Jack knew what was coming.
But it's to me though, the one thing I will say, James, imagine if Moise Kean was playing for Italy, right? Who, let's be clear, would have probably done a better job than Ciro Immobile and Andrea Bellotti did over the course of the tournament. Imagine if he misses the penalty. It's the exact same result. It just in my opinion, it just happens to be England. This is a global problem. This is not an isolated problem for England. And this happened. James, we did a YouTube video. You and me did a YouTube video. And you and I texted and called one another about a guy when France got knocked out, said that the reason they got knocked out was because of lazy African players in the French team. We had a conversation about that. Now,
and 2 years ago, they weren't lazy when they won you the World Cup.
Right. And James, it's a fallback. When Rory McIlroy does anything, he's British. When Andy Murray does anything, he's British. When all these, we're always going to try and I say we, yet again, it's when one, has success and can live vicariously through somebody, you're going to milk it for all it's worth. The moment things go sour, you see the worst in people. And yeah, I agree with Micky. Like, we're not going to just like storm the gates, because it's been happening for years and it will continue to happen. It's a cultural epidemic, pandemic. It's madness.
You know what the most surprising statistic I saw is? They obviously, because it's all on social media, you can track the areas and the countries that the tweets are coming from. The most surprising thing is the most of those comments were coming from outside England, from Asian countries, from like the Indias, the Pakistans, stuff like that. That's the problem with social media, because we cannot pinpoint the exact person, because it's so anonymous that I could make an account and say whatever I wanted and walk away, no problem. Next day I'm back at a job where for instance, you could be working with someone that's borderline a psychopath, right, with what he's doing online, but next day he's walking into work and you're standing right next to him, and you wouldn't be able to bat an eyelid because you wouldn't know a thing. That's the problem. And at the end of the day, we feel the sympathy and we feel the hate towards this, because there's a lot of hate towards these people that are doing this. But at the end of the day, we know we can do absolutely nothing, because until social media changes, nothing will change in that area of racism. And until the education improves for people that have offended, nothing will change in that regard. There's so many areas and facets that need to change before the problem can change. And for me, if I'm being honest, I think the problem is past change. I think it will be a worldwide problem forever, but it's how we now handle it, and it's not handled well enough.
Yeah, agreed.
Exactly. Unfortunately,
for me, social media can change, right? They can change, but the thing with social media is they won't change because the process of implement IDs is expensive for them. Second of all, to push those changes, you need the hierarchy of this country as well as every single major country in the world. When I'm talking major country, I'm talking America, I'm talking Russia.
Canada.
But I'll say half, 95% of the hierarchy in those governments, political people are white hierarchy. So that's never going to change. Boris Johnson was against the knee. He said a comment about, don't support the knee. Well, there you go. That is your Prime Minister of the UK.
Priti Patel.
Yeah,
Priti Patel as well.
Second of all, you go back to England national team and the DNA and the philosophy. At grassroots level, what's the educational purposes? What are they? I know coaches only amateur and they're volunteers. What's the educational purposes? There's nothing about treating everyone equally. They all we do this and we do that. We wear the t-shirt. There's nothing actually in print saying this. Everyone should be treated equally in schools. They're not doing enough. They're not doing enough. And what's happening?
You know what's the scariest thing? You just spoken about the higher ups. Priti Patel was the one that's come out with the message of don't back the knee, even though the England players have come out and said the knee is not for support of Black Lives Matter, it's in support of equality and racism, right? To get it out the game. The players have come out and said that, and she still went ahead with that message. If your higher ups in any country are providing a message, people are going to follow that message. Hence the booing in the stadiums. That this is now in South Africa at the minute, there's a lot of rioting going on, right? And that's because of education towards one political party, the ANC. Now, all the people that support the ANC are up in arms, going, "Oh my God, we one of our leaders is going to prison because he's got done finally." But they've all supported him and been brainwashed into this situation of whatever they do is right. We're going to go riot now. Same situation in England, just on a different scale. Priti Patel says, "Don't support the knee because it's inciting this and that." Everyone's going to listen to her over the England players, of course, because she's the higher up. That's just how it is. And that's how it always will be. Until they support it, no one can support it.
I can come here and we can speak about this issue as long as we possibly can. And to me, it's an issue that should never stop, because you're fighting it, I'm fighting it. We're all fighting this every day to get it completely out of the game. But again, to them three guys to have the bravery to step up, rather miss a score, I genuinely respect you for that.
Also, not 19, 21, and 22, 23. right? Age-wise?
Yeah, yeah. What, Rashford's like 25? Is Rashford 25?
No, he won't be 25 yet. Maybe 23.
Oh, right, he's
Anyway,
still young.
Under 25.
Point is, I'm 3 years older than that oldest guy, and I'd have passed out because of the anxiety and the stress. So if a 19-year-old Bukayo Saka can raise his hand, the biggest moment of his career, of his life, and do that, you're never going to get any criticism from me.
Okay,
But this
let's.
coming back to the awkwardness that Southgate had when we observed about how he picked the penalties from your observations. Grealish tweeted that he wanted to take one,
Yeah.
but Southgate didn't pick him. So for me, that highlighted the lack of like security in who his takers were going to be. For me, he didn't know in that situation. Yeah. He blanked. He blanked in that situation.
Do you know what it is? My thing with the whole like situation is this. Obviously, Maguire, I was shocked to step up. Kane, we all knew was going to step up. Rashford has taken penalties. He's taken big penalties for Man United. He's actually missed a fair few, but I can understand him stepping up. Sancho, I've never seen him actually step up, but apparently he scored 3 penalties. Yeah. Saka's never, ever taken a professional penalty. Raheem Sterling's missed a bunch of penalties, but why is he not the 5th one? Grealish has taken 1 penalty. He's 25 years old. Why does he not take it? To me, I do understand, like, you're in a training ground. Yeah, everyone takes penalties. They probably do it on a regular basis. But in that situation there, would you still want, like, Bukayo Saka stepping up to take a penalty? I get it, he probably rattles them in, like,
have you
at training, but it's a different environment when that sort of pressure's on and you got that man mounted of a goalkeeper right in front of you.
Have you watched the Crystal Palace documentary by any chance on Amazon Prime? You know Kevin Phillips, when he scored the winner to take Palace to the Prem. Holloway was making them practice all week for penalties. Kevin Phillips did not take 1 penalty that whole week, and he was just stood on the edge of the box laughing at everyone taking penalties. And what he said to them was, "You can practice all you want. It's a different feeling when you take it in front of 90 odd or 60 odd or however many thousand people were there. It's just a different feeling because you cannot practice for that." And for me, that just shows in my opinion, that was a lack of maturity as a manager from Southgate. He had to recognize the situation. He has to go. He wants to take one, but he can't take one because he's 19. He's never taken a penalty in any form of the game, bar training.
For the like I'm sure you guys have all seen the Ronaldo video with João Moutinho. Where was our version of that? Where was Harry Maguire? Where was Jordan Henderson? Where was our guy going, fuck it, it's in God's hands now. Come on, you hit them well. Come on, come take a penalty, come score. Where was that guy? I'm not going to try and call people out for not raising their hand and saying, I'll take one. But where was the person who said, you know what, I don't want to take one? Where was our guy, even the manager, going, no, you'll take him on. Come on. I have faith in you. Come on, let's go. Because it seemed to me, like you guys have just said, like Lorcan said, like looking at him picking, it was like, who wants to take one? Who wants to take one? And then the moment somebody said yes or no, it was like, right, that's my short list. It's like, you're the manager. You pick who's doing it.
But also, it's up to a player. It's up to the player. Jack Grealish can come out a tweet afterwards, I wanted to take one. But if you really wanted to take one and you've got the confidence, you step up and say, like on camera, he just stood with his arm on his shoulder. I got nothing against Jack Grealish, but then in that moment, if you're confident to take a penalty and you think, I'm ready for this, I'll grab my manager, go, manager, pick me. I want to be the 4th one. I want to be the 5th one. Put me
he's 19, never taken a pro penalty.
Exactly.
I should have taken one. Yes,
thank you, Lurkin, because I don't want to have this thing of like, oh, I wanted to take one. If you really want to take it, you're shoving him, I'm taking it. All right? Yeah. To me, I look at a thing like Jordan Henderson. In 2018, he didn't miss a penalty, but he took a penalty. Why is he going off? You know? Like, like someone like, for instance, a Kieran Trippier, who is a fantastic executor of free kicks. Would you not back Kieran Trippier over? Personally, I would back Kieran Trippier taking a penalty over Bukayo Saka.
James,
I didn't understand that.
Jordan Pickford, with the way I'm not kidding. Maybe I've got the Europa League where both goalkeepers took one, but I think both scored in the Europa League final. But the way Jordan Pickford's played all tournament and his attitude and stuff after saving some penalties, I'd have Jordan Pickford take number 5.
He's just saved Jorginho's one. I'd be like, I'd be literally telling Saka to walk right back to the halfway line. I'm picking the ball up and I'm going. That's
Good
how I
point,
would.
though. Good point, Lorcan. Good point.
It's to me, it's a massive point because someone like, listen, Sterling, I'm a big fan of him, but for him to watch Bukayo Saka walk up and take that penalty, that can't happen. I'm sorry,
to have the
that
tournament
cannot
that he's
happen.
had, to have that tournament that he's had, and he didn't want to take one. For me, that's as bad as missing.
Exactly, because to me, like, it's a fact that you can miss a penalty, but just to have just the nerve to just stand up and take it. It doesn't matter what happens. Don't put a player of like he's 19 years of age, and to watch the way he was crying, it broke my heart.
Yeah.
You know.
And James, I think you and I agree that he's a good player and he's going to get better and better and better. In my opinion, and you may agree, you may disagree, he's not that guy yet. I think he'll be that guy. Give it a couple of years. Give it the next World Cup. He'll be that guy.
Jack, I agree. Like, he still has a lot to improve, definitely.
But he'll step up at the World Cup, and I bet you he'll score. But right now, it's totally unfair to throw a kid like that in the situation that he was put in. And you know what? I'm not going to criticize him because he was the one who went, yeah, I'll take it. I'll do it. That shows more stones than any, no pun intended, than anybody else.
Listen, I know you don't like to change your routines, but even to know that, okay, if we miss this, we could be out. I would have been like maybe a Sterling or whatever. Leave it. I'll be the one to step up in that situation. There should have been something done in like in that scenario. Because in my head, me being an Arsenal fan, Saka was probably my sixth or eighth choice to take a penalty. He wasn't in my top 5. I know he probably smashing. He was banging them in training, but as Lorcan has said before, and Micky said before, it's a whole different ball game. Your knees are probably shaking, you know.
And James,
that makes me highlight Maguire's penalty even more. To execute a penalty of that quality in that situation, my goodness.
Do you know what it is with penalties? And this is my biggest thing. I will never tell a football player how to take a penalty because why? It depends on what makes them comfortable. Yes, Maguire's penalty was great and we loved it and we see the beautiful camera angle. But how many times do you see penalties like that go over the bar? Right. You know, it's really, really fine margins. If that's the way, if Saka's a side footer, he's a side footer. I personally, when I take penalties, no matter what scenario, I'm a side footer. I'm not going to tell you where I'm going to go just in case a goalkeeper's watching. He might catch me on a bad day, but that's the way they take penalties. Unfortunately, it's just like the Rashford one was like, you just knew that it wasn't going to be England's day because he did everything right. He sat the goalkeeper down. Like Donnarumma went before he even hit it. And it just seemed like the pressure kind of got to him for him not to execute it properly.
He didn't look at the ball, James. Sometimes you just gotta have that little look.
Like in that scenario, especially when he sent the goalkeeper, it was one where even the way he hit it, I just think, why did he not just roll it in? Because it seemed like he tried to hit the corner
he
properly.
Wanted to make sure, but he's done everything right. Yeah,
but he's done everything right before. But with penalties, again,
it was interesting. It was interesting that the 2 penalties that were saved on the same side.
You know,
for me, I watched the previous game as well. Donnarumma favored that side a lot during both penalty shootouts. But I just feel like for a team that practices a lot of penalties, they didn't watch a lot of Italy's penalties the week before.
But the one thing I realized,
this is what I don't get, right? So obviously, it's all COVID and stuff, but this is what England. This is where I come back to fine margins. Like England could prepare for this. There's nothing. I don't think it's against UEFA rules to bring a player from outside of the national team to train with. One like Fraser Forster, and he's 6 or 7, just for penalty practice, just to get the players ready to stand in front of a goalkeeper of that stature and size.
Yeah.
But this is the difference. This is what I think everyone can have a go at Southgate and stuff. It's the things behind the scenes. This is what you need to look at. But maybe Southgate was told this information. He just didn't know how to react to it. But Mancini brought the subs on, yet to adopt the 4-3-3, but he was also preparing. Like when we could go for the penalties here, so my best penalty kick takers on the pitch. So I didn't have to have that pressure of going, who am I going to pick? He knew, right, that's my starting 5. That is my starting 5. Jorginho is definitely taking the last one. Blinded by the 4th one he took. He knew. That's why he was so calm. He was like, guys, it's in the God's hands now. I've picked the 5. I ain't changing it. And Southgate was going, oh my God, what's going on?
No, but also, do you not find it weird? Okay, that like you
I thought
you tell me like Southgate,
before
Mikey, can I just get like
Yeah.
Southgate was panicking, but it felt like during the game that England were actually playing for penalties. So why was he not prepared before?
I thought he was prepared before I saw him talking to everyone, because he's ready to bring Sancho and Rashford on. I'm like, okay, he's already got his 5. They're all on the pitch. Let me bring them all on.
Right.
And I thought already I didn't even think that Huddle would have lasted that long, because I thought he had the piece of paper ready. Because the way he brought them on, he was so confident it was going to penalties. But he was stood there in a circle and he was trying to pick them out. I'm like, you've just brought these 2 players on.
Yeah.
Clearly they're going to be your penalty takers. So that's 2 of them. That's 2 of them written down on that 5.
Yeah, and why 2 of those guys didn't come on earlier to run at the tired fullbacks who just played 2 hours of football earlier that week? I have no idea. Like, we've talked about this before with our predictions and stuff. If you're a fullback, right, and I played some Sunday League fullback, right? If you see a kid come on who you're like, damn, this guy's good, at 70, 80 minutes, you're like, oh man, I'm going to get burnt a couple of times. They're probably going to have an opportunity. Why are we not instilling the same fear in the opposition a little earlier with the idea that, now they'll be warmer and they'll be better penalty takers? I think 10 minutes to go. Anyway.
Both centre backs were on yellows as well. I think that needs to be a very important conversation when you're making changes.
Can I just add there, at the end of extra time, when he was picking the penalties, did anyone feel like the team itself was just a bit disjointed? Like he was going walking over there to talk to someone else. Why don't you just get all the players in a circle, get them rallied up before you even pick, get them rallied up? Say, lads, this is it now. This is the biggest moment of your career. We're at home. Greatest chance here. These are my 5. Have everyone there, because then people around Saka going, yeah, this is Saka, this is you, mate, this is you. But Saka was next to, I can't remember next, I think it was either Trippier or Grealish, and Grealish was hands on his, he wasn't really talking much. That environment there just seemed, they don't together. Like, you need to get everyone together and just get everyone rallied up and say, listen, just smack the ball, get it on target, hit it as hard as you can on target, and you've got a chance, lads. That's all you can do. Get them all fired up. When it's all disjointed like that and you're running around trying to pick players, you lose all the momentum out of the game. Mancini had always played together. Bonucci was running them. Chiellini was there. That's the difference. That's how you win games, because everyone's motivated to give their best. That's it. That's for me.
I'm going to call it right now, but it just feels from the conversation we had, it's like it's such a missed opportunity for England. It was like the way I felt, this was England's time. You won't get another opportunity like this in front of your home crowd to win it. Hopefully they may win it, the World Cup or like whatever in a few years' time, but this was such a big opportunity, and to miss it with such fine margins, it's really upsetting. But again, I understand we kind of slated Gareth Southgate in a way, but I want to praise him for what he's done for England in these past 2 years. He came in as a bit of a novice in a way. People didn't really know, is he ready for the job? And to get England to a semi-final and a final and be a few kicks away from winning it, he's been exceptional. The England players have been exceptional. To bring the country this close together in like 7 weeks has just been outstanding. Congratulations to them. Congratulations to Italy on having a fantastic tournament, being the best team by a good distance, and definitely deserve to win. But guys, tell me what you think. Should England have won? Penalty takers, everything that's gone on in this. Please comment down below. Let us know what you think. Please hit that subscribe button, and we will see you next time.